Never thought I'd hear that.
No, well, it's true.
Not a few months ago, I wouldn't think of that.
See, never thought I'd hear that, especially not a few months ago. I didn't think I'd hear that. Y'all had him borderline defeated with how y'all think about how they was treating this dude. They was acting like he couldn't comprehend and understand a playbook. That's really how low they stooped. That's how low Cleveland media was stooping, because the people that was pulling up to the camp practices can see with their own two eyes he's throwing the ball better than Dylan Gabriel. He looks more the part than Dylan Gabriel. So they had to try to insult the dude's intelligence and make it seem like he couldn't grasp a playbook. Oh, he's just behind.
Shedeur Sanders just broke his silence in an exclusive interview about what it was really like being buried as the fourth-string quarterback by Browns coaches who refused to give him a fair opportunity. And when asked about breaking records alongside Joe Burrow and Aaron Rodgers, his response was absolutely heartbreaking. "I never thought I'd hear that. Not a few months ago, I wouldn't think of that." The pain in his voice exposed just how dark those months were when Kevin Stefanski's coaching staff parked him behind 3 other quarterbacks, denied him first-team reps, and made him question if he'd ever get a chance to show the world what he could do. Even more revealing, Shedeur admitted there were moments when he lost hope that he would ever break records or make history during his rookie season because of how the organization treated him, saying his relationship with God was the only thing that kept him going, kept him sane through a situation that's probably not something anybody would want to be in, like being a fourth quarterback. But analysts Earl Pearl and G. Bush just exposed the real reason Cleveland media tried to destroy Shedeur's reputation by claiming he had poor practice habits and couldn't grasp a playbook, because fans who attended training camp could see with their own eyes that Shedeur was throwing better than Dylan Gabriel, so they had to insult his intelligence to justify the coaching staff's agenda. Look, y'all need to hear what Shedeur Sanders just revealed in this exclusive interview, because this isn't just another feel-good comeback story. This is a young man opening up about trauma, about being told he wasn't good enough, about losing hope that he'd ever get his shot, about questioning whether all the work, all the preparation, all the talent would ever matter if the people in power refused to give him an opportunity. And the fact that he's now breaking records, historic records, alongside names like Joe Burrow and Aaron Rodgers, makes what the Browns coaching staff did to him even more inexcusable. Let me set the scene for you. Shedeur just threw for 364 yards and 4 touchdowns against the Titans. He became only the second rookie since Joe Burrow to have over 350 passing yards, 3 passing touchdowns, and a rushing touchdown in a single game. He now has 4 pass plays of 50-plus yards in his first 3 starts, something only Aaron Rodgers has done since 2000. The interviewer is listing off these incredible accomplishments, and you can see Shedeur processing it all. And then he says something that should haunt Kevin Stefanski for the rest of his career. "I never thought I'd hear that. Not a few months ago, I wouldn't think of that." Y'all, do you understand what he's saying? A few months ago, during training camp, during the preseason, during those weeks when he was buried as the fourth-string quarterback, Shedeur Sanders didn't think he would ever hear his name mentioned alongside Joe Burrow and Aaron Rodgers. He didn't think he'd break records. He didn't think he'd make history. He didn't think he'd get the chance. Because Kevin Stefanski and the Browns coaching staff made him feel like he wasn't good enough. And that's not speculation. That's what Shedeur is telling us in his own words. The pain in his voice is real. The trauma of being told you're not ready, you're not prepared, you're not talented enough, even when you know you are, that stays with you. Now, the analyst breaking this down on Keep the Vision absolutely nailed what happened here. He said, "Y'all had him borderline defeated with how y'all was treating this dude. They was acting like he couldn't comprehend and understand a playbook. That's really how low they stooped. That's how low Cleveland media was stooping." And he's 100% right, because here's what actually happened during training camp. Fans who attended practices could see with their own eyes that Shedeur was throwing the ball better than Dylan Gabriel. They could see that he looked the part. They could see that he had elite talent. But the coaching staff had already made their decision. They wanted Dylan Gabriel. They wanted to justify picking him in the 6th round. They wanted to prove they were right. So what did they do? They couldn't attack his arm talent because everyone could see it. They couldn't attack his accuracy because the stats proved it. They couldn't attack his decision-making because he was making the right reads. So they attacked his intelligence. They attacked his work ethic. They said he had poor practice habits. They said he couldn't grasp the playbook. They said he was behind in his development. The Analyst put it perfectly. They had to try to insult the dude's intelligence to make it seem like he couldn't grasp a playbook. Oh, he's just behind. And that made him feel this. He never thought he would get to this point this year. That's psychological warfare, y'all. That's not coaching. That's not development. That's breaking a young man's spirit so you can justify keeping him on the bench. And it worked. For a while, it worked. Shedeur admitted in the interview, "I never thought I'd hear that. Not a few months ago, I wouldn't think of that."
Our relationship with God
And how has that helped you?
kept me going, kept me sane, kept me able to go in a situation, that's probably not something that anybody, would kind of want to be in, like being a 4th quarterback and
Yeah.
doing all that type of stuff and being able to wake up and go to work every day and just be thankful.
Did you always know that you were going to get a shot, that if you just kept doing what you needed to do, that you were going to get an opportunity?
I had no plans. I just went and did what I have to do every day and just left it up to God. Like, I tend to not even worry about that type of stuff because it's not my control.
Right.
So I was never, ever at any point wanting anything to negatively happen to anybody.
Sure.
Like that's not kind of like my character, and that's not kind of what I wish on somebody, because like out of all the quarterbacks, like we all young, we all chasing our goals, chasing our dreams.
But here's where Shedeur's story becomes even more powerful. Because when the interviewer asked him what changed, what allowed him to have this success now, Shedeur's answer wasn't about football. He said, "My relationship with God." And how has that helped you? Kept me going, kept me sane, kept me able to go in a situation, that's probably not something that anybody would want to be in, like being a 4th quarterback and doing all that type of stuff, and being able to wake up and go to work every day and just be thankful. Kept me sane. Y'all, do you understand what that means? Shedeur Sanders, a Heisman finalist, a kid who threw for 500 yards against TCU in college, someone who's been elite his entire life, was questioning his sanity because of how the Browns organization treated him. Being the 4th quarterback, being told you're not ready, being denied reps, being made to feel like you don't belong, that almost broke him. But his faith kept him grounded. His relationship with God gave him the strength to wake up every single day, go into that building where people didn't believe in him, and continue to work like his opportunity was coming, even when he couldn't see it. The interviewer asked, "Did you always know that you were going to get a shot? That if you just kept doing what you needed to do, that you were going to get an opportunity?" And Shedeur's answer was honest. "I had no plans. I just went and did what I have to do every day and just left it up with God. Like I tend to just not even worry about that type of stuff because it's not in my control." I had no plans. That means he didn't know if he was going to get a shot. He didn't have some master plan where he knew Dylan Gabriel would get hurt and he'd finally get his chance. He just had faith. Faith that if he kept showing up, kept working, kept preparing like he was the starter even when he was 4th string, that somehow, some way, God would create an opportunity for him. And then Shedeur said something that shows you the character of this young man. "So I was never, ever at any point wanting anything to negatively happen to anybody. Like that's not kind of my character, and that's not what I wish on somebody. Because out of all the quarterbacks, we all young, we all chasing our goals, chasing our dreams. So it's like to have some type of spite that somebody else is in a position that you're not in, I don't think that's a good thing." Even when the Browns coaching staff was treating him like he wasn't good enough, even when Cleveland media was questioning his intelligence and work ethic, even when he was losing hope that he'd ever get his chance, Shedeur Sanders never wished injury or failure on Dylan Gabriel, Mason Rudolph, or Joe Flacco. He just kept working, kept praying, kept believing that God had a plan even when he couldn't see it. That's warrior mentality, y'all. That's the kind of mental toughness that separates good players from great ones. Because it's easy to stay positive when you're the starter and everyone believes in you. It's hard to maintain that faith when you're fourth string and the organization has made it clear they don't want you. But Shedeur did it, and now he's reaping the benefits. Now, Earl Pearl and G. Bush on the UCSS podcast broke down something crucial that explains why the Browns' media and coaching staff were so desperate to discredit Shedeur. G. Bush said, "It's only a certain amount of time that you can deny. They can only lie and deny it for so long because people getting exposed now." Facts. Because once Shedeur finally got on the field, once fans could see with their own eyes what he could do, all those lies about poor practice habits and can't grasp the playbook got exposed as exactly what they were, a coordinated effort to justify an agenda. G. Bush continued, "If you were one of those people who can't admit when you was wrong and say, yo, the dude is ballin', he should be the quarterback, you are exposing yourself. It's video out here." And that's the truth. Every Cleveland media member, every analyst, every fan who repeated those lies about Shedeur not being prepared, they're all getting exposed now because the video evidence doesn't lie. Shedeur is elite. He's breaking records, he's making history, and he's doing it despite the organization's best efforts to keep him on the bench. Earl Pearl made an incredible point about Shedeur's preparation. He said, "A lot was said in the pre-draft process about his level of preparation, and then you fast forward now and all you hear from everybody that got a platform is how well he's been preparing for each and every single start." See how the narrative flipped? Pre-draft, they said he wasn't prepared. Now that he's succeeding, suddenly everyone is praising how well he's prepared. But Earl Pearl connected it back to Coach Prime. He said, Emmitt Smith is just talking about the aura of primetime, but he said the one thing that he noticed was Dion was a student of the game. He was always prepared. His football IQ was on another level. You better believe that he instilled those same type of habits into his children. So Dylan Sanders, a Hall of Famer known for his preparation and football IQ, raised his son with those same values. And we're supposed to believe that suddenly Shedeur couldn't grasp a playbook, that he had poor practice habits? No, that was a lie. That was the Browns coaching staff creating a narrative to justify their agenda. Earl Pearl broke it down perfectly. All the people who were saying, oh, he just keeps going backwards and backwards, now what you gonna say? All the people who said he had poor practice habits, he couldn't grasp a playbook, now what you gonna say? So Coach Prime told Shedeur, you gotta handle this as a man. Shiloh and Shedeur gonna handle theirs as men. I'ma catch up with you on the other side when you get to where you going. G. Bush put it perfectly. God had to have him through a situation where he had to go through the fire. People talk about trade him. I said, no. You got to go to the fire sometimes. And when you get through the fire and you get to that place where you've been tried and now it's your time to shine, now it looks way better than what it is. That's biblical wisdom right there. Shedeur had to go through the fire alone. No Coach Prime in Cleveland to protect him. No media campaigns defending him. Just him, his faith, and his work ethic. And when he came through that fire, when Dylan Gabriel got hurt and Shedeur finally got his shot, he was ready. Not just physically, but mentally. Because going through that trial, that adversity, that period of hopelessness made him stronger. Now, when people talk about Shedeur Sanders, they're not talking about Coach Prime's son who got special treatment. They're talking about a warrior who was fourth string, lost hope, kept working anyway, and now is breaking records alongside Joe Burrow and Aaron Rodgers. G. Bush ended with this. That fifth round is the thing that leaves the headlines. The fifth round pick that did something nobody couldn't do. They went through the fire with it, and it's good to see they on the other end. And that's the truth. Shedeur Sanders being a fifth-round pick who broke records as a rookie after being buried at fourth string. That's a better story than if he'd been the starter from day one, because now everyone knows he earned it. He overcame organizational resistance. He survived psychological warfare. He kept his faith when hope seemed lost. And now he's making history. Look, the Browns coaching staff tried to break Shedeur Sanders. Cleveland media tried to destroy his reputation. They made him feel like he'd never get his chance. They made him question whether all his talent and preparation would ever matter. But Shedeur kept showing up, kept being the first person in the building, kept studying film with Stefanski even when Stefanski didn't believe in him, kept his faith in God even when he couldn't see the path forward. And when Dylan Gabriel got hurt and Shedeur finally got his opportunity, he was ready. Not because the Browns developed him, they refused to give him first-team reps. Not because the coaching staff believed in him, they blocked with everything they had to keep him on the bench, according to Todd McShay. He was ready because he prepared himself, because his faith sustained him, because Coach Prime raised him right, even though he couldn't be there physically during the darkest times. Shedeur Sanders saying, "I never thought I'd hear that, not a few months ago," should haunt everyone who doubted him, everyone who repeated those lies about poor practice habits, everyone who said he couldn't grasp a playbook. Because now the truth is undeniable, and everyone who tried to bury him is getting exposed. So here's my question for all of you. Should Kevin Stefanski and the Browns coaching staff be held accountable for making Shedeur Sanders lose hope and question whether he'd ever get a fair opportunity? Does hearing Shedeur say, "I never thought I'd hear that, not a few months ago," prove that the organization was engaging in psychological warfare against him? And should every Cleveland media member who repeated those lies about poor practice habits and can't grasp a playbook publicly apologize now that Shedeur is breaking historic records? Drop your thoughts in the comments, because Shedeur Sanders just broke his silence about what it was really like being buried as a fourth-string quarterback, and his testimony exposes the dysfunction in Cleveland. If you believe Shedeur earned everything he's achieving right now, despite the Browns trying to stop him, smash that subscribe button. He went from losing hope to breaking records alongside Joe Burrow and Aaron Rodgers, and he did it by keeping his faith when the organization refused to give him a fair shot. Let's go.